844-4443. Got it.
And what's with the mariachi band?
You didn't say anything about Amazon.
On next week's episode of What Not to Do.
Come on, an elephant?
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA.
Ocala.
Okay, 5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday morning. Robin, I'm not a psychic, but I'm going to predict that I'm going to like this next interview.
Okay.
I wanted to tell you before we introduce our guest, real quickly, I'll do a brief little philosophy that I have, or a thought that I've had. Maybe it's a thought more than a philosophy. So I've had this thought that when humanity finally figured out that we live on a round planet instead of a flat planet, we should not have been surprised, because if you look up into space and you realize everything else is spherical, then therefore, why would we be any different? Why would God make this planet different than all the other planets?
Right.
The same thing is true when you look around at all of God's creations regarding animals. Every single animal, in plant, I guess you could say, seems to have a purpose and a skill and a talent and a way to survive. So why would people be left out? Why would God give every animal a way to survive and not do the same thing for mankind? Mm-hmm. The difference is, in mankind's case, while every beaver might know how to make a dam, every human isn't a musician. Every human isn't a baseball player. Every human isn't an architect or a builder or a police officer. We have different skills, but we all have a couple things in common also, which is this immense ability to care and to love, or to not.
Yes.
When I was looking at the book that we're going to talk about, The Lost Dutchman, I thought, oh my gosh, this guy says it so much better than I ever could have. And this guy is on the phone. He is Reverend Michael Lessard. He is the pastor of Good Shepherd Anglican Church in Phoenix, Arizona. He's the founder and CEO of Pastoral Care Associates, and in the quotes, in the parentheses, it says, giving spiritual care and support to those who are suffering in healthcare settings. Wow, that's a big challenge. And that's in Phoenix. He's also the chaplain at Phoenix Baptist Hospital. And what a great book. It's called The Lost Dutchman, A Treasure Hunt for the Soul. Wow. Reverend Michael Lessard, thank you for being on the air with us this morning.
It's a pleasure to be with you, Larry and Robin. Thank you for having me.
And gosh, you've hit on something in such an eloquent way of storytelling. Is it a parable? Do we say parable? Is that a good way to say this? The story that you tell, kind of teaches us all that we do have a mission in common, which is to learn how to love.
Absolutely. What we take with us into eternal life is the love we carry with us, and the love we give to others, the love of God, and the love we have towards those who we care about, and to the people around us.
You know, there was a song one time, I think it was James Taylor, and I like James Taylor, but he had a line in the song that one day I'm going to go live in a cabin out in the woods and basically be alone. And I thought that's exactly the opposite of what God wants from us. He does not want us to be alone. Mm-hmm. He wants us to be there not so that we have other people around us, but so that we are around for other people.
That's right, and that's why it's so important to carry that love around with us now, because the experience of God is not just something we have someday, but it's an experience now when we have a caring relationship with someone, when we extend kindness to someone through God's grace, then we participate in the fabric of God's plan of redemption and love in the world.
Yeah, the profoundness of this book and the depth of your thinking is probably best demonstrated if I can ask you to give a movie trailer version of the story, without giving too much away, because ultimately it's a story. So, but then at the same time, I want to come back at you with so many different questions. So give the audience the movie trailer version of The Lost Dutchman.
Well, I work in the medical field, so I've done thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of interviews. And out of that experience working with doctors, I kind of put together this character that is going through a midlife crisis. He's divorced. He's got a couple of kids who are not living with him anymore, and He's a physician, general practice doc, and he's wondering about what his life is about, what the meaning and purpose of everything is. And he's sort of depressed, and he has lost his sense of caring. And he goes on a little plane ride with one of his patients, who's been bugging him to go with her on this little plane ride. And she's a private pilot, and they fly over the Superstition Mountains here in Arizona, and the plane goes down and they get killed in a plane crash. And he wakes up outside the door of his office with a sign that says that he's no longer with us. And down the end of the corridor is an angel that beckons him to come to this place. And he goes to this place, and the angel explains to him that his job is to care for all the people who are there. They are in the same situation that he is in some ways, and his job is to recover his caring by caring for them. And in the meantime, on Earth, there's the problem with his family, because his family has to be notified, and they come to realize that they, through a series of events, don't really know very much about him. And so they're on a treasure hunt to discover who he was, and they go back to Ohio to find out about his childhood and so on. And in the same time, there's the NTSB team, which goes down to the crash site, recovers some of the evidence, and they go through their own journey of coming to terms with not being able to find a lot of evidence, but going through a process of growth themselves. So there's like three stories going along at the same time.
When people go to sites like that, and they're responsible for looking for evidence and things like that, do some of them also add on their gut feelings as to what happened and not just stick to the scientific facts?
Well, they let the facts lead them to the direction of what perhaps caused the plane crash, and they do discover what the cause was, and that's part of the journey they're on as well. But they do discover also at the same time some things in their own life. So it's a scientific study in the sense that they have to be able to produce a report that explains with most evidence of what really caused the plane to go down.
What I find interesting is that after his death, he is basically still on the same path that he was on in life.
Right.
That to me is interesting, and I've often wondered about that, because I don't know what's in the afterlife. I don't know anything. But I've often thought, why would God, have us all owning harps? I'd rather have a guitar, and the whole thing about the mansion. I don't really need a mansion. Just give me something small and with a running toilet and a sink, and I'll be fine. So the protagonist is kind of in that situation where he's in a natural place. There's a home. There's all these other little things around. There's people that he's caring for. He learns to care about. But then there's a journey of self-discovery in that. And I don't want to give away too much because, but there is a journey of self-discovery that culminates at the very end. So.
But that's Dr. Turner, right? You're describing.
Yes. Yeah.
So because I'm like you, I want to be very careful about not giving away the storyline. The listeners, trust me, you're going to like this one. The book is The Lost Dutchman. We're almost against the break, but we'll come back after the break. Reverend Michael Lessard is our guest, and calling in from Arizona. Is that where you are, in Phoenix?
I am, right.
Okay. How's the weather out there today?
It's beautiful, sunny. We've had a little rain lately, but it's beautiful, about 60 degrees right now.
I have a brother that's retiring to Arizona. He lives in L.A. Mm-hmm. And what's the name of the city he's moving
Lake
to?
Havasu?
No. That's where he vacations.
Oh, okay.
But it's a little. I went there one time. It was nothing but sand and cactuses.
We have a few of those.
All right, hold on, Reverend. We'll take a little break. We will be right back. I knew I was going to see. I'm a good psychic. I told you I was going to like this one. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. On this Wednesday, sunshine, some clouds, and warm. High 79 to 83. Partly cloudy Wednesday nights with a low of 56 to 60. There'll be some fog in the area late Wednesday night into Thursday morning, and partly to mostly sunny and warm later Thursday with a high of 78 to 82. Friday, partly sunny and warm, high 80 to 84. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Are you wasting hundreds or thousands of dollars on termite retreat fees? If you're not with Turner Pest Control, you probably are. Turner Pest Control offers the industry's only termite and pest control package that never charges retreat fees, ever. You can get started today for only $99. This is a value of $500 or more. This includes treatments, installation of monitoring stations, quarterly pest control, and a lifetime guarantee, all for an unbelievable low $99. Even if you have another pest control provider, visit turnerpest.com to find out how you can avoid paying those high termite retreat fees.
Central Florida Eye Institute is the area's leader in laser vision correction. From high-definition refraction surgery and LASIK vision correction to custom cataract, glaucoma, and diabetic treatment, you can count on Dr. Crowley and his effective, friendly staff to provide you with the quality care you deserve. Call 352-237-8400 for an appointment or more information. That number again is 352-237-8400. Looking forward to service your vision needs.
Keep up with what's going on in the downtown area with Ocala Downtown Newspaper. Delivering thousands of newspapers to businesses in the downtown area, Ocala Downtown is there to keep you informed. They even have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask in return is that you tell them where you heard about it. It's simple. For more info, just call Tom's Picks, 352-804-1223, and pick up your copy of the Downtown Ocala newspaper today.
Now read Ocala Downtown Newspaper online. You have that drip coming down from the corner of the room, but where did it start from? Bone Dry Roofing can and will fix it right the first time using quality materials and will deal honestly and fairly with you, period. You can find Bone Dry Roofing on their website, bonedryroofingllc.com, and Facebook at Bone Dry Roofing LLC. Do it right before your roof needs a tarp to keep the elements out. Bone Dry Roofing stands behind their work to help make your home safe and secure, plus they have financing available. Remember, if you're not bone dry, then you're all wet.
All right, 17 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. On the phone is Reverend Michael Lessard. His book is called The Lost Dutchman, A Treasure Hunt for the Soul. Thank you for waiting through the break, Reverend.
Yes.
I noticed something years ago, that if I looked at old home movies of people when they were children, or if I read a biography of somebody who was well-known, there's always evidence in childhood of what we will become when we're adults. Like Robin's little girl, Robin's daughter, who's 30-something, when she was a little girl, she was always playing with horses. Now she works at a veterinarian, with a veterinarian.
Yep.
If you looked at old videos of me, I'm playing drums and guitars and stuff like that, and I ended up doing music, and of course radio is kind of a spin-off of that. And so I wonder, like, when God gives us life, does he put into us, and this is a speculation I'm asking you to comment on, the inner treasure you talk about in the book, is that what that is? And does he give us more than one? Like, does he give us, okay, you're going to do music, but you're also going to like animals, that kind of thing?
I think that that is a unique character that each one has or possesses, their gifts or talents, and they certainly come from God. There's no doubt about it. And why we particularly go towards one direction, like music or art, really has a lot to do with God's plan in bringing us into the world, to be able to experience His beauty in nature, to recognize our place in the universe and our place in the world, in our relationships. So yes, I think those are all means for us, for God to communicate to us His love and His care for us. And that's what makes it so, whatever those talents are, skills, so important, because it's through them that we extend life to others.
And the human heart is really, really amazing, because when tragedy happens, people feel numb, and then you get angry, and then all of a sudden you start moving forward. And that is really a feat in itself to do that. because you could stay in those dregs and just not come out of it.
Well, I think sometimes that happens when we have a lot of, if the relationship was particularly difficult or painful. But, when there's a lot of love in a relationship, we move past the pain into the future. And we bring that person with us in our experience. And so it can be a very difficult thing for people who are in pain. But once we move through the grief, we can actually see and experience the benefits of the life that we get through that life that we shared with someone.
Wow. Do you know, I was watching one of those TED Talk things the other night on Facebook, what do you call it, YouTube? And the guy who was talking was a doctor. And he said, in his world, death it means failure. You as a doctor, you work to keep people alive, not to die. So anyway, he had, for one reason or another, he had to go visit hospice, and he was in the hospice house, and he took the vitals of one of the patients there. I'm not so sure why. And he said to the lady who worked there that she was a hospice worker, and in their world, death is not a failure. Death is a part of their that's what they do. They help people die.
Yes.
And so he said to her, the vitals are improving. We might have a hospice dropout. We might have somebody who gets out of here. And the woman said to him, no, doctor, I hate to disagree with you, but she's going to die. And the doctor says, now, how do you know she's going to die? And she says, because she told me she's been seeing her mother. And people will always see a loved one before they die. And I thought, oh, wow, I had a dream about my mother the other night.
You're still here.
So I don't know. I mean, it was just an interesting thing to hear. That.
Yes. I hope she wasn't telling you to stand up straighter.
But I don't know. I guess that's another inner treasure is the ability to, I guess, work with people the way a hospice worker does. I could never do that. That would be something that I would be clueless. I'd be lost.
Larry, it's a really good point. A lot of people think that we have to say things to a family that's going through a stressful time or a loss like that. And a lot of times it's more about being there. It's about not so much what you say. It's about what you let them say, what you encourage them to speak about.
Oh, interesting.
And it really isn't about us. It's about the person in grief. And so what I've learned over time is that story, the stories of the family, the stories of the loved one that we carry in our heart, those stories come out and are told and retold. My wife died about 2 years ago of Parkinson's, and she was an amazing person. How I was so blessed to have her in my life, I just can't imagine. But anyhow, nonetheless, she wrote letters to everyone, and during the last 2 weeks of her life here on this planet.
She knew she was dying.
And I would walk and she'd say to me, "Who am I going to write today?" And I said, "Well, write so and so." And she would. She got a little typewriter and she would type, and she was always thinking about others. It was so neat because she told stories. Her letters were full of little stories that we had experienced when we were working in the ministry here, or when we moved here, or funny little stories like that she shared with people. And when she went into a coma, a number of the folks came back and read those stories back to her.
Oh, my. Are you going to put those in a book? To put all those stories in a book?
Yeah, I'm thinking about. I have enough material for a lot of other books. I'm working on one now called "Living in the New Creation." Mm-hmm. But anyhow, that's the kind of person she was.
You're a good pastor. The church you have. They're lucky to have you. That church. You probably don't.
Well,
you'll probably be humble and say, "Nah, I'm lucky to have them."
Sure, I'm the one that gets splashed all the time.
You also have a nice. You also go into the separation scenario in your book about Dr. Turner's family and how they departed, and then how each of those family members have to deal with certain things that are going on in their life, and it comes full circle for them as a unit.
Right. They discover who he was and why he was the way he was with them. And there's some forgiveness that has to happen there.
Really? Are we, when we read this book, are we eavesdropping on your own life? Is this partially an inner journey for you?
Oh, I think every author tells their story. You cannot not tell your story. Everybody tells some of their experience and brings it into that. It was a journey that Dorothy and I were on at the same time when I was writing this, and so the metaphors and the imagery, particularly, is very biblical. But it also, I think, creates a kind of a language of caring that is communicated whenever we share and care for someone else. Yeah.
When you are the chaplain to different patients in the healthcare, and they have been diagnosed with life-threatening diseases and things, and then when they died, do their partners come to you and say, well, I'm never going to find a love like this anymore, and then do you give them some kind of encouragement along those lines, like maybe they will?
When people say that, it oftentimes is because that's how they feel right now. They may feel differently in a year or 2 years. Mm-hmm. It depends on how a person goes through the grieving process. Some people go inside with stress. I like to call them turtles. They withdraw into their shell when they go through a loss, and so it's an internal process with them for recovery. And there's some other folks that are more external, kind of, and they are much more verbal and much more communicative about whatever it is that's going on with them, but they oftentimes don't take the time to do internal work. So internal people tend to look internally, but they don't do some of the external work they need to do. And so we try to kind of open them up to the idea that grief is something you're going to deal with, and your particular propensity in terms of your personality is the way you're going to deal with it. And it takes time to go through the process, whether you're an internal-driven person or an external one. And just because you're talking about it doesn't mean you've dealt with it.
Oh.
Do you know there's a metaphor that is often used about airplanes. When the oxygen mask comes down, you're supposed to put it on first because you're supposed to make sure you're okay before you try to take care of anybody else. Which I don't know what metaphor we used before the airplane was invented. But when we die, if I'm caring for something, if as a spirit and whatever angel, whatever I become on the other side, and I have my guitar and my little house, and God says to me, "Okay, I want you to help other people." Do I need to care for myself at that point? Do I need to eat and breathe and all that stuff, or am I free of all that stuff? That's again.
I think I think we were created without a lot of the dealings in this world that we have to deal with now. So I think we get to a more a spiritual state of being, and in that world and in that environment, that we're not kind of limited by our bodily limitations of materiality. And so that experience is going to be unique, but I think the meaning of that and the experience itself will be heightened and growing as we love and care. The more we love and care for one another, the more we're prepared for the weight. Paul says that there's a weight of glory. And I mean, I think that the weight is not like a physical weight, but it's like letting go of the weight of the earth, so that we can carry with us the weightlessness of eternity. And and the requirements of law, the IRS, all the other stuff that we deal with, have to, because we live in this real world, all the stuff that limits us will be gone. And that is a unique thing.
Michael, thank you for being on the air with us. We've got like 10 seconds. The website for you is, what is?
They can reach me on pastoralcareaz.org. So it's PASTORAL care, CAREAZ.org. And all they have to do is click on book if they'd like to order one.
Okay, and call me if you want the copy that was sent to me. I do have a copy from Michael. If I'm ever in Phoenix, I will be in the back of the church, sitting in a pew, looking lost, and I'll come up afterward and I'll say that was awesome. Reverend Michael Lessard, thank you for being on the air with us today.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you, Robin.
You're welcome. We will enter the news now. We're already in progress. Thank you we'll be right back.
Former President George H.W. Bush in the hospital in Houston, Texas.
A statement from his office chief of staff says he was taken to Houston Methodist on Saturday for shortness of breath and has responded very well to treatments. It goes on to say his doctors are pleased and they hope to have him out of the hospital soon. Bush, who is 92, is expected to go home in a couple of days.
Fox Radio's Tanya J. Powers. Fox News. We report, you decide.
Investments in securities involves the risk of loss. The following is a far too common tale of investing in annuities. A successful couple invested a large portion of their savings in annuities, thinking they were a safe way to guarantee a dependable income stream no matter what the market did. But it didn't take long for them to regret their decision. They